So that's the general idea. I've been reaching out to a lot of different teams through Twitter, trying to connect and get some ideas of who might want to come on and what they want to discuss. There's been a few that have been interested in going over a pitch deck review. For that, we would take a look at the deck, everything all the way up to the ask. Don't want to get into any issues with general solicitation or making sure there's no confusion point on that. So I wouldn't talk about valuations or pricing or investors, but there's a lot more to a pitch deck than just that. We've got to tell the story behind the company, make sure that that's clear, be able to represent what's actually been happening and not just talk about the possibilities or what we think, and then take that and package it up so that it's something that others can share and get a feel. And of course, our main goal with that is to create enough of an interest to get that next meeting. And that's what the whole startup life is all about. It's really just having a chance to take that next at bat and trying another experiment and seeing what we can come up with. The other thing that we've talked about doing is just a general strategy session. Teams struggle constantly with trying to figure out their go-to-market strategy, new markets to go into, um, how to test the next feature, or maybe doing some customer development. These are all things that we work with our teams on quite frequently, and it's always good to have another set of eyes to bounce some ideas off of and trying to touch base on what you're thinking and get a new perspective. So I think those will be some interesting conversations that we'll have coming up. Another thing that we've uh, offered to some of the teams would be to do a lean canvas review. If that's not something you're familiar with, in a modern business structure, when you're starting to look at how am I going to create a company, instead of taking the time to draw up a 15 or 20 page business plan, we typically like to start that with a single page canvas that just is a high level outline of what are the elements that make up your business? Who are your customers? How are you going to identify them? What's your product offering? How are you going to get that to your customers? And then how do you know that you're offering enough value that it's worth someone to purchase it? And it kind of highlights all of those into segments that you can then um, play off of each other and run different scenarios and just kind of work through all the different possibilities of how it may come together. And then really what this helps us do is get a starting point so that we can go run some more experiments. And then based on the information we learn from those, then come back to the canvas and adapt it. All these things are living documents based on the information that we find out once we get out of the building and talk to our customers and really learn what is it that drives them. We can have the best idea of the world of a tool that doesn't exist yet, but until we really talk to the customers, you don't always know if there's a reason why that tool doesn't exist, and that reason is that nobody wants it, or is it truly the fact that the technology just hasn't been created yet, and you were the one that everyone was waiting on to make that happen. And we certainly hope that that's what happens most of the time, but unfortunately, we know that that's not always the case. And the sooner we can find that out, then the more opportunity we'll have to adapt and adjust that plan and come up with a better idea. And then the final thing that we talked about is just doing a general product overview, really working through how do you demonstrate the product, what areas do you cover depending on the audience. That story would be very different many times for a customer versus an investor versus maybe a service provider or somebody that you're going to work with. And so those are more good strategy sessions that we can go